Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 24 driver career mode with myself driving for Sauber in our first season as a Formula 1 driver. If you did miss the last episode, it was a Lando Norris third career victory and Oscar Piastri claimed a McLaren 1-2 by finishing second place in the Spanish Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz finished P3 to get a podium at his home Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen, massive drama in the championship. Max Verstappen ended up 4 laps down and scoring no points. It was a DNF, but he was still classified as 4 laps down, and Stroll was the other non-finisher. So a massive swing in points with Lando Norris claiming maximum points and Verstappen claiming absolutely nothing. But going straight away towards this next race, it's a sprint race in Austria. We're going to take a look here at the durability, and we're going to have a look and at this control electronics improved materials upgrade, as well, if we get it, it's going to bring our durability to the best of the field. That's pretty much the way it's going to be. Our car's been pretty rock solid, apart from the little things that sort of like the tire pressure just disappearing for the team and stuff. But other than that, our car's been pretty rock solid. And taking a look, if we standard process it, it's going to get in before Hungary, so a couple of rounds away. But if we rush it, we'll get it before Silverstone, so kind of that round before. And so we're going to we're going to take a shot at it, and we're going to rush it, and we're going to try and see if we can't get that before Silverstone. And taking a look now at our specialist, so manufacturing expert, and we're going to keep the tyres below a certain temperature for the race weekend. The wind tunnel engineer, top speed for 30 seconds. And the power unit consultant, we're going to try and get 15th in at qualifying. The material fabrication planner, and we're going to try and get ourselves 5 laps without penalties, which should be pretty easily done around Austria. And the upgrades that we've got on the car for this weekend, we've got the weight reduction upgrade and a durability upgrade. So once again, the durability coming in clutch, and another upgrade is on the car for this weekend. And going into the weekend, we're going to take a look at how the car performances look here, and it's going to be Red Bull bringing upgrades this weekend, as it's their home circuit, so they'll be looking for some success around here, and that is actually going to stretch their lead at the top. And they're going to gap McLaren by a little bit here. There is now a very large gap as well to Aston Martin and Ferrari and Mercedes, so those 3 cars are pretty much identical on pace, and it's another large gap in performance before you find a very close bunch of teams, including RB, Sauber, Williams, and Alpine, all in this really tight bunch here towards the bottom end. But unfortunately, they're just continuing to fall off the back of this pack, and they're just bringing in upgrades, but obviously just not big enough upgrades for them to be trying to stay with the rest of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how their performance go if they do start falling back towards the back of the field. And for the weather, you can see here for sprint quality and the sprint race, it's looking like there's could be a possibility of some rain. Qualifying is going to be dry again, but we're going to be expecting more rain for the Grand Prix, so it's going to be a very up in the air weekend weather-wise. But I reckon overall a dry setup is going to be the way to go, as let's go straight into qualifying.
Up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
And one really good thing about fast lap times around a short track, plenty of attempts at getting a lap in, and that is something that we're definitely going to be having to do. But straight away, we're going to have issues here. I have forgotten to change engine components. So I generally run a little bit more worn components during practice, and I forgot to change them, and so I'm running a very worn ICE at the moment. So it is going to be a miracle if we can even make it to the end of qualifying, let alone the sprint race, without having to take a penalty for this sprint qualifying and race session. As we come to the end of the first qualifying session here in sprint qualifying, we're going to somehow finish P3 out of all of that, and it's going to be Oscar Piastri who's going to be fastest in SQ1 by nearly 0.2 of a second ahead of his teammate Lando Norris, and again myself in P3. Knocked out in SQ1, Valtteri Bottas, Nico Hulkenberg, Logan Sargent, Esteban Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen. We're going to go straight into SQ2 here, coming to the end of our first flying lap in the session. You can see the rain is falling, and I reckon this will be our only lap, because if the rain keeps falling, Inters are not going to go faster than the mediums, and that is going to be it for SQ2, and it is going to be Oscar Piastri fastest once again by 0.06 of a second ahead of Sergio Perez. Stroll in P3 nearly 2/10 back, and myself P8 1.5 seconds back, so a big delta there in times when people were going out for their laps. Knocked out in SQ2, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, George Russell, Carlos Sainz, and Max Verstappen. That is a massive one. One of the championship protagonists not making it into SQ3. It is only the sprint qualifying, but there is still points available, so qualifying, well, it's going to be definitely something that you want to be doing to try and maximize your points over the course of a weekend as we come to the end of our next flying lap, and we're not going to be able to improve. It's going to maintain us in P7, but we're going to have time for hopefully one more flying lap here. And I reckon I've timed this pretty well. We're going to cross the line. We're going to go P6, but there's 7 seconds left. So I'm hoping that's going to be enough for us to go around for one more lap. And we'll do, but we're going to have a very bad second to last corner. And then once again, a very bad last corner. And that is going to absolutely ruin it. We were green in the first and second sector, but unfortunately red in the final sector. And that's going to be it for our qualifying session. P10 in the end. Lando Norris is on sprint race pole position with Oscar Piastri making a McLaren a 1-2. He's only a 10th back. And Sergio Perez finishing P3 there. He's 3/10 back, and myself 1.2 seconds back.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Hamilton, Gasly, Stroll, Tsunoda, Albon, Ricciardo, Lightning, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Russell, Sainz, Verstappen, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Right, let's see if we can push for another points finish in this race. Good luck.
As much as I would love a points finish in this sprint race, I am still very, very concerned about the condition of our engine going into this sprint race, and it is going to be 5 red lights, and we are away in the sprint race here in Austria. It's a pretty good start, actually, compared to Alex Albon there. Daniel Ricciardo next to us is also going around the outside now of Alex Albon, and Mark immediately reminding us that our engine is incredibly warm there. You can see in the bottom corner, it is red, solid red. So if we can make it to the end of this race, I'm going to be completely amazed. And they're 4 wide going into turn 3 here. There is a lot of contact, and I don't know who hit who and who's dived on who, but that is an absolute mess, and they still continue to go 3 wide, but we're going to cut towards the front here because the 2 McLarens are currently battling it out for who's going to be leading this sprint race. At the moment, it's Lando Norris ahead of Oscar Piastri, but they're still going to continue going side by side into this middle section of the track, and it's going to be Oscar Piastri who prevails at the moment, and he's going to lead away from his teammate Lando Norris, who sits P2. Lewis Hamilton is currently sitting in P3, so he's done well to get himself up to there, and there is a massive pack of cars here, all stuck next to each other. And going on to lap 2 here, we're going to be looking at Charles Leclerc. He's looking to go around the outside of Alex Albon, and this could get him up into P9. It's not going to be quite a points finish yet, and you can see that I'm trying to take advantage as well, but our straight line speed is absolutely cooked at the moment with that engine wear that we've currently got. Lando Norris is looking to try and get himself into the lead of this Grand Prix now. He's got the power of DRS, so he should be able to pull ahead of Oscar Piastri here, going into the middle sector of this circuit, and he will get into the lead of the race. Oscar Piastri maintains the McLaren 1-2 by staying in P2 here. And Yuki Tsunoda's looking to go around the outside of Sergio Perez. That's a wicked move from Yuki Tsunoda there, who's showing who could possibly be in that Red Bull seat. And remember, if Yuki is going to be moving into a Red Bull seat possibly next season, that's going to open the door up for us going into RB, which is the team we're trying to get into there, as we lose 2 positions to Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, but we're going to lose 2 more now to Nico Hulkenberg and to our teammate. We're going to send down the inside. There's contact in front of us with Fernando and Carlos, so the 2 Spaniards who were battling it out for a possible podium in the last race in Spain, they're now battling it out outside of the points here in Austria in the sprint race, and we're going to get very close to the back of Nico Hulkenberg. We're actually going to get a bit of floor damage here. I don't know where that floor damage came from, because I don't actually think we hit Nico Hulkenberg. We got very close to it, and I locked up the rears, but I don't actually think I hit Nico Hülkenberg there. So it's very interesting, just very strange where that damage has come from. But it's just going to, yeah, just solidify the issues that we've got at the moment in this race with those worn components. As Lando Norris is looking to try and get himself, well, trying to maintain his lead here. He's under attack from his teammate. So obviously gloves are off in McLaren at the moment because they feel safe with Max Verstappen in P17. Max Verstappen's in P17. He has not been able to make his way through the field at all. So very unfortunate for Max Verstappen in this championship battle. He's not scoring any points in this sprint race, and Lando Norris, he can easily battle away with his teammate and not have to worry about it. They just have to make sure they do not hit each other, or as that could end in catastrophe for this World Championship, as that there was Sergio Perez getting himself ahead of Stroll there in the Aston Martin, and Stroll's now under attack from Daniel Ricciardo. So both RBs now, P5, P6, they're doing really well. And look at this battle pack that we've got. This pack starts with Daniel Ricciardo up in P6, and it ends pretty much all the way down, down to last. This entire battle pack is from P6 down to P20, which is absolutely insane to think about. Charles Leclerc sending it down the inside of Alex Albon there to get himself up into P9, but Albon's not having anything of this. He wants to try and stay in front of the Ferrari because he knows points P8 are right there, and there was a bit of contact there. I reckon that was an end plate that went flying. Does that Ferrari possibly have a missing end plate? No, it doesn't. But there was definitely damage that came off one of those cars there. As now Oscar Piastri is looking to get himself up into the lead. They're going very narrow, and look at that. Lewis Hamilton, he's now right there in this battle for the race win here in the sprint. And it is going to be Oscar Piastri who's going to try and keep battling away. But we're going to cut towards our POV here. They're going 3 wide in front of us. Surely they cannot make it out cleanly here. And we're not going to make it out cleanly now as George Russell backed up so much, and I was not expecting it. Didn't have anywhere to go, and we have now broken our front wing on the rear of George Russell. It is going to be a miracle if George Russell doesn't get a puncture from that, because that was definitely wing straight onto the tyre. And now we are under attack from Max Verstappen, but he's going to get that move done very easily, as I am still praying that we just make it to the end and don't get our first DNF of the season. And we're going to have to try and defend this P16 as hard as we can, because I do not think we're going to be getting anywhere further up the field, as Sergio Perez is now looking to get himself ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. This is going to be for P6. Can Sergio Perez split the 2 RBs? He hasn't been able to do it here, but he's going to have another dose of DRS going up this straight. But it's going to be Oscar Piastri. He's made himself back up into P1 here, but he's going to be under attack immediately from Lando Norris. He's going to have another dose of the DRS. He's going to be looking to go around the outside here. Lewis Hamilton is licking his lips at the moment. He definitely knows he can capitalize out of this. And Pierre Gasly, where's Pierre Gasly come from? Gasly's now in the battle for the lead, which is absolutely wild to think about, that the Alpine is now in the top 4 and battling for a race win here in Austria. There's yellow flags behind us as Logan Sargent is now out of this Grand Prix, so very unfortunate for the American driver in the Williams. He is not going to see the checkered flag here in the sprint race. And yeah, lots of smoke coming out of that Williams. So a massive engine failure there for Logan. Very unfortunate for himself, as Sergio Perez is continuing this battle with Daniel Ricciardo. But Charles Leclerc has actually managed to get ahead of both Perez, Stroll, Ricciardo. He's jumped of quite a few people. So Leclerc has now found himself inside of the points going on to lap 10. And it is going to be Carlos Sainz who's also looking to try and get himself ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. So Daniel Ricciardo's actually got damage. Maybe that's why he's falling down the field so much. And the Aston Martin of Stroll's also just copped a bit of damage. I saw an end plate go flying there as he possibly made contact with Daniel Ricciardo once again. And Albon is also looking to capitalize on this, and he's going to make it 3 wide. How often are we saying this? More end plates go flying, bits of front wing going everywhere, and it is going to be Alex Albon who's going to get himself ahead of Stroll, but Stroll's going to have the DRS. We're back on board with ourselves, and we've lost out to our teammate Valtteri, but there's a yellow flag ahead of us, and so we have to hold station as they haven't cleaned up Logan Sargent's car yet, but by next lap, that should all be behind the barrier safely, and we can go back to green flag into that very crucial overtaking opportunity there around this Spielberg circuit. And we're going to be going side by side now with our teammate Valtteri Bottas. We're going to send it down the inside at turn 1. It's going to be a little bit awkward. It's always awkward making a pass going into turn 1, and there's now yellow flags in front of us. No, so who else is also having some dramas here? But our straight line speed, even with DRS, is so bad. Like, Valtteri's just driven around us. And now we're going to try and go around the outside of Valtteri. Hulkenberg's checked up because up ahead, it looks like it's Stroll with the engine failure. We've got an illegal overtake because we must have just mistimed that with the yellow flag coming out. So we've had to let Bottas back through. And I've had to try and make sure Magnussen didn't get back by us. And so it has been a very, very awkward lap 11 for us so far. Going on to the final lap, though, it is Carlos Sainz looking to get himself now ahead of Sergio Perez, and that is a massive amount of contact going to turn 1. Sergio Perez has copped quite a bit of damage there. He's nearly missing the entire front half of his front wing, and Max Verstappen is now trying to get himself into the points here. Max Verstappen getting into the sprint points is an absolute wild thing to think about. Is he going to be able to do it on this final lap here? Our straight line speed, once again, absolutely horrendous with our teammate getting back by us. We're going to send it down the inside at turn 3 to try and get ourselves ahead of our teammate. I just want to get ahead of our teammate at the moment. I know points aren't on the board, so if I can just finish ahead of Valtteri, that is going to be the main thing. Assert our dominance in this team, as now we're tucked up behind Daniel Ricciardo, and his exit is going to be absolutely horrific, and we're going to get the up and under on Daniel Ricciardo, and that is going to be us now up into P15, and hopefully we can hold station here. But coming around the final corner, it is going to be Oscar Piastri who claims victory here in the sprint race around Austria. Lando Norris will claim second, Lewis Hamilton third, Pierre Gasly in P4, and he was right there with the leaders as well. And for ourselves, we're going around the final corner, and it is going to be P15 for us in this sprint race. As we take a look at the rest of the top 8, the point scorers in this sprint race. So Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, and Carlos Sainz all scoring points in this race. Unfortunately for Max Verstappen, he didn't quite make it in the end. P10 for Max, which is an absolute wild thing to think about, that he's not getting any points in this sprint race. Myself, P15 in the end. Our teammate Valtteri, P17, stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo. And Stroll was actually classified 2 laps down after that late engine failure. And Sargent also not being classified with that engine failure.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Alright, this time I have managed to remember to not use worn parts, so hopefully we can get ourselves a very good qualifying for this main Grand Prix, where we can hopefully try and score ourselves some points, because in qualifying our pace was really good as we go P4 on our first attempt at a qualifying lap here. Purple in the first sector, green in the middle sector, so this lap is looking very good to round out the Q1 here, and it's going to be P5 for ourselves, so a very good result in the end. Max Verstappen fastest by 1.5 tenths to his teammate Sergio Perez. Norris sits P3, he's 2 tenths back, and I'm 3 tenths back sitting in P5, and unfortunately knocked out in qualifying 1 here. Daniel Ricciardo, our teammate Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hulkenberg and Logan Sargent knocked out in the first round of qualifying, and we get straight away into qualifying 2 here, currently setting P9 before we set our time here, and we're going to go up into P7 on our first flying lap here. And as Mark just said, that we've only got 1 lap of fuel here, so we are really under fueling the car to try and make sure we maximize our 1 lap pace here. And once again, a purple first and last sector, and that is going to put us up into P3 to end qualifying 2 here. So it's going to be Lando Norris fastest by only 15 thousandths of a second to Max Verstappen, myself 2.5 tenths back in P3, and knocked out in qualifying 2, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, and Kevin Magnussen not making it to the final round of qualifying. And we're going to have a big wobble coming out of the final corner. That's a strange space to have a bit of a moment like that. Our first flying lap will put us P5, and we have found over half a second, 7 tenths on our flying lap here, and that is an absolute massive improvement, and that is going to put us P3 for the main Grand Prix. Max Verstappen's on pole position by 4 tenths of a second ahead of Lando Norris and myself. Even though we improved by nearly a second, it was 7 odd tenths we improved by, we're still short by half a second.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve. It was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Lightning completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, Ocon, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Bottas, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Logan Sargent. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. And striding into our commentary box to join us today, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Davidson. Now, we had great fun watching them win last time out. What a great victory it was. But can they carry that into today's race?
It's the important one, isn't it, Crofty? You've done it once, can you do it again? But, you know, if you start believing in yourself and the confidence starts to build, that inner confidence is what you need. And you can carry that through to future races, including this one, and you set that ball rolling. That's the critical thing that they're looking for here. And I believe if you've got that first race win or a win at any stage, it can start to roll with you in a good way.
And now making a strategy for this Grand Prix is going to be crucial, because you can see there for the weather, 2/3 of this race is going to be dry, and then right at the end we're expecting some rain. So ideally, I reckon if we can start on the hards and try and see if we can't make this a one-stop, that would be really good. But you can see here, I am struggling to figure that out. The game is not letting me start on the hard tyres. It is only letting me start on either soft or medium. Now, I'm not starting on the soft. So race strategy today, mediums to lap 14, hards to the end. And we are sitting on the grid now. You'll see that we were promoted to the front row of the grid alongside Lando Norris, and we are away for the Austrian Grand Prix. And it is going to be a really good start for ourselves. We're going to switch it to the outside line. Lando Norris is going to go defensive, and we're going to swoop around the outside and take the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix ahead of Lando Norris. Sergio Perez is currently sitting P3, but he is looking to try and get himself ahead of Lando here. And is this battling going to help me try and drive away from these two? I did not have to go defensive into turn 3, which is going to be crucial for our exit here. And Sergio Perez has got himself up into P2. He has given Norris a squeeze to the grass. And on board here with Lando Norris, he's going to be looking to go to the outside, but he can't do it. And Gasly, who had a really strong sprint race performance, he is also up here in P5, currently battling George Russell for this 5th position here. But it is going to be George Russell. He's going to go side by side through this very fast section of the circuit, and they're going to continue going side by side. But it is going to be George Russell that's going to prevail. But with the slipstream, Pierre Gasly, this is a very audacious move. He's going to try and send it down the inside of the penultimate corner, and it looks like he may actually get it done, but Russell's going to swoop around the outside, and they're going to have a drag race down to the line here. Back into the slipstream goes Pierre Gasly, and is he going to be trying to go for a move into turn 1? He is, and he's going to be trying, once again, going around the outside. It looks like there was maybe a little bit of contact there between the two drivers, and to help his defense, Pierre Gasly is going to have a big dose of DRS going down this straight. Lewis Hamilton has now taken advantage of this battling, and he's looking to try and get himself ahead of his teammate here, and going around the outside at turn 3, and it is going to be Lewis Hamilton now ahead of George Russell. Charles Leclerc is battling away with Max Verstappen, who also, copped an engine penalty. That's how we got promoted, to the front of the grid there. And he is now down in P9, still trying to get into P8 by going around the outside, which is now going to give him the inside for this left-hander here with Charles Leclerc, and a little bit of contact actually, so hopefully no damage between the two. And this is going to be on board with Sergio Perez here. I did notice he lost a few positions here, and this is how he locked up going into turn 1 there, and he lost out to both McLarens. And on board here with Oscar Piastri, and that is a very, very awkward rejoin there from Sergio. I wouldn't be surprised if that's possibly going to be looked at for an unsafe re-entry, as Oscar did have to take avoiding action, and Lewis Hamilton now has got himself into P5 ahead of Pierre Gasly. So is Gasly possibly now he's outside DRS, a little bit of a roadblock, as now we lose the lead of the Grand Prix to Lando Norris. It was only a matter of time, but now hopefully I'm going to try and see if I can't stay within the DRS of Lando Norris. We're going to use all the battery we can and try and save a bit of battery going into the DRS zones. And there was a bit of contact there with Max Verstappen. He looked like to be a very audacious move going into turn 3 there. He was all the way to the inside, and he continues to go side by side with George Russell. And is he possibly going to hit the back of Gasly? Oh, that was extremely close to getting into the back of Gasly. Oscar Piastri is now under attack from Sergio Perez, so he's recovered from that mistake he made the other lap into turn 1 there, but it's going to be Piastri who's going to prevail and get himself into P3. But this battle is going to continue, as you'll notice there, myself and Lando Norris have driven away. We've broken DRS from these two. Perez is going to go around the outside. A very good move there. And Gasly has got himself back ahead of Max Verstappen there. Or was he defending from Max Verstappen? Time will tell, but in the end, it's going to be Max Verstappen who's going to go around the outside here at turn 3. Are they going to be able to do this cleanly? Yes, they can. No contact made, which has been a bit of a common occurrence, actually. Turn 3 seems to be a bit of a hotspot for a lot of contact as the battle between Piastri and Perez continues. Piastri around the outside, Perez on the inside, and it is going to be neither of them, actually, getting DRS. I really thought one of them was going to DRS. They must have hit the line at the exact moment, and neither of them gets DRS. Piastri will keep his P3. Sergio Perez P4. Charles Leclerc is going down the inside here of Pierre Gasly. So Gasly is naturally slowly falling down the order here. Is that a slow Mercedes? It is. George Russell is going slow. Has he got some sort of issue? Possibly a puncture. No, he is pulling off to the edge of the track. That is George Russell's day done here in Austria. And back on board with ourselves here. Our first objective of the race, we have to overtake Lando Norris. Mark reckons we've got more pace here. And I have been sitting in the DRS and just letting Lando carry me down the track away from these two who are still battling it out, with Oscar Piastri trying to get himself back ahead of Sergio Perez, who did steal the position on the last lap. And so Mark now wants us to try and close that gap and get ahead of Lando Norris. And so that is what we'll try and do. And Perez is actually going to get himself ahead of Oscar Piastri here. So Perez back onto the podium. And unfortunately, we didn't actually end up having the pace to be able to get ourselves ahead of Lando there. You can see we've got ourselves very close. I was pushing really hard to try and get ourselves caught up to the back there, but we just weren't able to get it done. And now the first 10 laps have proceeded. It's time to do an order check here. So Lando Norris leads the way ahead of myself, and then Sergio Perez rounding out the podium. Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, and Fernando Alonso rounds out the points, with Alex Albon, Esteban Ocon, our teammate Valtteri Bottas sitting P13, Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hulkenberg, and Sargent is the final car on the road at the moment, with George Russell, the only non-finisher at this moment, with Oscar Piastri looking to get himself ahead of Sergio Perez. But you can see that the other Red Bull and now the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton have joined in with this battle. So we've got a four-way battle here for third position, and if they continue the battle like this, you can see that we've already got 5 seconds now to this battle, so we can easily, I reckon, very easily continue to pull away here with Lando Norris if we just sit there in his DRS. And it is going to be Oscar Piastri. He's going to lose out to both Red Bulls now, and Carlos Sainz is now battling with Pierre Gasly, so he's looking to try and get himself caught up to his teammate maybe and try and get a bit of Ferrari teamwork happening here. But Gasly's not having any of it, and he sends it back up the inside, and that is Gasly back up into P8. But it's not going to be very long until Carlos Sainz with the DRS is going to have another crack at it here. And he's going to go around the outside of turn 1. Is he going to be able to make the move stick? It looks like he is. And Fernando Alonso looks like he may be wanting to take advantage of that. But it's going to be Max Verstappen who's going around the outside of Sergio Perez. So the Red Bulls have switched positions here. Max Verstappen now up onto the podium. Perez down into P4. Piastri P5, and Hamilton is looking, he could maybe try and get Piastri there, as Piastri's dropped off the back of the 2 Red Bulls. And it is Carlos Sainz, he's still battling away with the other Spaniard of Fernando Alonso. This is for P8 on the road here. You know, Fernando Alonso is doing very well to keep it around the outside. The speed of the Aston Martin's actually been pretty good this race weekend, especially in the hands of Alonso. And he is going to keep it side by side, which is very impressive stuff, especially through this section of the track. But it is going to be Fernando Alonso who comes out on top of that battle, and Perez is now out of the race. So one of the Red Bulls, that's very crucial in this championship, because you've got both McLarens up here in the top 5. It was also both Red Bulls up in the top 5, and now one of them is out of the race completely. So once again, it's up to Max Verstappen to score all of the points there, and a very strange one. No obvious issues for Sergio Perez. He just came to a stop on the main straight, and you see there, Mark wants us to box this lap, but I want to stay in the DRS of Lando Norris. I think if I'll lose the DRS to Lando, I am going to be very vulnerable very quickly to Max Verstappen, because I genuinely don't think our pace is actually that good. I really do think Lando is just carrying us, and our next objective has popped up, and we now need to achieve a very quick lap time to keep Mark happy. And back in the pack here, Fernando Alonso wants to have another crack here at Carlos Sainz, and he is going to go around the outside of his fellow Patriot. And now, with another dose of DRS, he is going to be able to keep the position into P7 there, and we are going to be able to set that quick lap time that Mark is after. And I just noticed, is our radio broken? Mark has been oddly quiet since he asked us if we wanted to box that lap. And there's contact between Sainz and Alonso. So hopefully none of them have got damage from that bit of contact there into turn 3. And yeah, I reckon my radio's broken once again. It happened in Canada, and I reckon it's happened once again here in Austria. Radio broken, so we are running blind at the moment. So we're going to have to be making all the decisions ourselves for the pit stops, for anything that happens in this race. It is all up to us now. We have got zero communication with our pit wall as this battle continues between the two Spaniards. Carlos Sainz trying to get that position back off of Fernando Alonso there for P7, as we're now in the lane. So we have followed Lando Norris in for the pit stop, and we're going to be going onto the hard tyres. And I've got a feeling this isn't going to be our only pit stop, but that rain was scheduled to come for the last portion of the race. So I hope that we can pretty much use this as a bit of a sprint session and try and get ourselves maybe ahead of Lando Norris for when the rain comes, because the AI are generally really good in the rain, especially when it's like a crossover point. So hopefully we can try and get an advantage against maybe even just Max Verstappen, as the battle for the lead here between Piastri and Hamilton now is continuing on, as they have not come in for a pit stop yet. So naturally they have taken the lead, but Lando Norris is the net leader for when everyone comes in for the for their pit stop, and maybe their only pit stop in this Grand Prix. We'll have to see how the weather plays out, but it is looking pretty good at the moment. Not very many clouds in the sky, but as we know in this F1 world, the weather can change in an absolute instant as we cross the line to set a purple final sector. So there is definitely a lot of good pace on these hard tyres, and we once again naturally now take P2 as everyone else has come in for their pit stop. Oscar Piastri now, he's continuing his battle with Lewis Hamilton after their pit stop, and he is looking to go around the outside here at turn 3 of the Brit driver, and it is going to be Oscar Piastri who is going to continue going side by side, but he will get P4 here. And now the pit cycle is done, we're going to take a look at how the order sits. Lando Norris ahead of myself, and Max Verstappen is now on the podium, so he's done a very good recovery drive here. Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, and he's got Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly behind him, as well as my teammate sitting in P11 just outside of the points, Kevin Magnussen, Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, Nicky Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Sargent is last on the road. And now that we've got Sergio Perez also out of this Grand Prix, and we now set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, going on to lap 22 of this race, still with the DRS of Lando Norris. And further down the field, this battle continues to intensify as Alex Albon is now looking to get himself up into P8. He's going to have to do this by going around the outside of Pierre Gasly, and he's going to hopefully use another dose of DRS, but it's actually going to be Gasly that gets that dose of DRS, but Albon will keep the position ahead of Pierre Gasly. And for ourselves, we now have to try and stay consistent, and hopefully just by staying in the DRS of Lando Norris, we can stay consistent there for Mark. So we're getting little notifications coming up on our steering wheel for what they want us to try and achieve, but that's about as far as our communication with this broken radio goes to our pit wall. Just those little messages that we can get onto our screen of the steering wheel, as now Esteban Ocon's looking to get himself ahead of Alex Albon, and the other Alpine of Gasly is sitting very closely behind, looking to pounce once more on Alex Albon, but it's going to be Albon who's going to be doing the pouncing, going on to lap 25 up into turn 3 around the outside of Esteban Ocon. Is he going to be able to keep the position and to start the lead of this train once more? He looks like he's got great straight line speed. I would imagine he's got DRS, but now the two Albines are going to be working together to try and get ahead of Alex Albon here, but Albon's actually going to have a very good line going into turn 1 there, and it's going to be the two Alpines going side by side. And are they going to try and split around the outside of Albon? They are, and they're going to be going 3 wide into turn 3. The two Alpines either side of Alex Albon. So very intimidating stuff from them. I wonder if they were possibly trying to plan something like that to try and see if they couldn't intimidate Alex Albon into backing out of it. But Albon is not backing out of it. In fact, he's trying to go for Pierre Gasly and try and get that position back. He wants that P8 back, but it looks like he's going to be just chilling behind. But Valtteri Bottas, our teammate, he has taken advantage of this situation. He's got himself up into the points. Could our teammate finally get himself some points as we're going to cross the line to start lap 29? And we have managed to stay very consistent for Mark there. And so you can see our last radio message is still sitting there, so our radio is still broken, but we have managed to stay consistent for that period of time. As Lando Norris, he's had an absolute shocker of a run coming out of turn 3 there, so we're going to take full advantage of this with the DRS. We're going to dump a heap of battery, and we're going to try and send it now down the inside of turn 4 of Lando, and we are going to get the lead of this Austrian Grand Prix once again, as we did at the start of this Grand Prix, and it is going to be teammate Valtteri Bottas. He is now absolutely on the charge, making the move on Alex Albon. That battle pack is actually split up quite a fair bit there. So obviously battling does slow you up, and that is split the pack up quite a lot. Valtteri taking advantage of that and going for P9. But Alex, once again, fighting back nearly immediately, trying to go around the outside of our teammate. But our teammate is going to be able to hang on. Back on board with ourselves here, you can see Lando Norris immediately wanted to try and get himself back ahead of us. He wants to stay in control of this race. We wash a little bit wide there as we get a little bit of a hit of dirty air with Lando trying to go up our inside. And the rain has now arrived. Lap 32, we're going to be going on to lap 33, 4 laps left of the Grand Prix, and the rain has arrived. Wow, this is going to be an absolute crazy end to this race. And we're going to have to be very vigilant as DRS is now disabled. We nearly run up the back of Lando Norris. So the grip is fading away on these hard tyres with a constantly getting more wet track. As you can see there on the replay, very, very close. So rear-ending Lando Norris. And we've just got no grip. All of a sudden, the grip has just dropped away massively. You can see that on the MFD. I have selected Inters, and I am going to make a very last-minute decision here. I'm boxing for Inters. I'm going to do it. You can see that I can't even keep it within the white line to try and make it into the pit lane. There is no grip out here, so we're going to come into the pit lane very gingerly. I do not want to get a penalty this late into the race for speeding, and we're going to make a second pit stop in this Grand Prix. We're going to go for the intermediate tyre, and we're going to just see what we can do. We're going to have 3 laps, essentially, to try and get ourselves... I don't know where we're going to end up, but we've got 3 laps to try and make something work on this intermediate tyre. We're currently sitting P5 with Lewis Hamilton now over 10 seconds ahead of us. He is 11.9, 12.1. He's 12 seconds ahead of us, so we've got some work to do. We've got some work to do. And fast forwarding now towards the end of lap 35, so only a lap and a bit later, that 12-second gap, absolutely nothing as we pass Lewis Hamilton, and you can see the track is very wet now, and as quickly as we pass Lewis Hamilton, we now catch up to the back of Oscar Piastri. So this is for a podium now, getting onto the podium of the Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to send it at the penultimate corner, but because we're so narrow going in, we do run wide, but given the circumstances, I'm going to keep it going and not give up the position. You can see that Max Verstappen just up the road, 2.8 seconds. Just like that, going on to the final lap of the race, we are side by side with Max Verstappen. We've gained that time so quickly, and he's going to give us a squeeze up onto the curb, and he's going to have a bit of a wiggle himself. You can see how much steering lock he had there. He was washing wide, and we were already committed to the outside, and so unfortunately, that compromised us a bit, and Lando Norris 3.8 seconds ahead. Now, can we possibly get somewhat close to Lando Norris? The gap is now less than 3 seconds just between those 2 corners there. The gap is rapidly closing, 2.1 seconds. Now less than 2 seconds to Lando Norris. So could we maybe possibly steal a race win here from Lando Norris? There he is, going around the final corner. Are we going to get our first race win here in Formula 1? We're going to dump the DRS to the line. Can we get it? No! We miss out by the narrowest of margins.
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the McLaren team, and I'm very very happy to see them there on that top step of the podium.
I still can't believe it. I just can't believe how close that was to our first career victory in Formula One. But speaking of victory, it is the 4th career win for Lando Norris here in Austria. And yeah, I reckon if it wasn't a slow stop and we didn't get that squeeze from Max, I reckon there would have been a 2/10 gain there to get a win. And Max Verstappen, yeah, finishing P3. And taking a look at the rest of the top 10. So Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly. Our teammate Valtteri Bottas finally scores some points this season, finishing P9. And Alex Albon rounds off the points here in Austria with George Russell and Sergio Perez both not finishing this Grand Prix, unfortunately for them. Big for Red Bull in the championship, as now we take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen leads the way by only 10 points to Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, he's P3, 70 points back. Myself, P9, we're now only 4 points behind Fernando Alonso, and our teammates now sits P17, finally getting some points this season. Looking at the Constructors, McLaren leads the way by 48 points to Red Bull, so that DNF from Sergio could cause a crucial point in this Constructors' Championship. Sauber, we sit P6, and you can see here now, we've now gained enough championship points to earn ourselves our first accolade, giving us a good boost of increased experience for our driver ratings. And we have also won our rivalry against George Russell there, so that is pretty good to prove that we can go up against some of the more experienced people in better cars, and also won our rivalry with Yuki Tsunoda, which is absolutely crucial for us to try and get a seat in RB next season. And taking a look at our driver rating, so our experience is up to level 76, racecraft up to level 84, awareness up to level 80, pace up to level 84, focus up to level 79, giving us an overall rating of 83. So we are very quickly becoming a very decently rated driver in the Formula One world, and our recognition remains at 49% compared to our teammates' 51% in the team. And taking a look at the specialists, so our manufacturing experts actually now up to level 2. So we've now unlocked an extra perk in our R&D, and our material fabrication planner also nearly level 1. And wow, what an episode. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next episode where we go to the British Grand Prix for the home of Formula One. I'll see you then.